I was aware about the uproar over the use and abuse of artificial intelligence programs, but I hadn't given it much thought until very recently. See, in particular, a lot of people are alarmed about deepfake technology, and it's had a lot of practical applications in the film and the gaming industry, but it can also be used to create misleading images, films, snippets of audio. The potentially harmful media can create anything from videos to inflammatory political content. And these cleverly made fakes can spread on social media like wildfire, damaging the reputations of their targets and influencing public opinion. I have a very strong reason to believe that there are even more sinister applications in store for us. The concept of reality is in danger, and no one will be safe. Until very recently, I didn't know much about the darker side of deepfake software. I was peripherally aware that it existed. I knew it's getting used for nefarious purposes, but I'm not a confused old Luddite either, but a lot of that stuff kind of flies over my head. I certainly never would have imagined this technology would someday affect me, an anonymous nobody on an ocean full of regular people, but here we are. It was actually a more tech-savvy friend of mine who found this video. She discovered it while poking around on a sketchy video dump website. She emailed a copy of it with a brief message that said, "You should definitely see this." The video was just over a minute long. It appeared to depict some scene of violent civil unrest in an urban setting. It seemed to have been recorded at a downward angle, as if the person filming was standing on a second-floor balcony. The street was filled with a surging mob of rioters, and several buildings were on fire. The mob clashed with a razor-straight line of police and riot gear who used their shields and clubs to drive them back. And the camera zoomed in on one lone individual who rushed at the line with a long knife in his hand. And he attempted to stab one of the cops. He was knocked to the ground by a hard push with a riot shield. The cops promptly surrounded the fallen attacker, and they beat him into a bloody mess. And in the background, someone lit up a Molotov cocktail, threw it into the midst. The resulting spray of burning fuel ignited both the cops, the attackers, everyone who was receiving the beating. The camera followed one of the burning cops as he ran into the crowd, who promptly swarmed him down and beat him with their protest signs. Now, at this point, the screen abruptly went to darkness, and the word Test 13 Riot appeared for a split second in a bold font. Then the video just ended. I watched the clip several times in a row, trying to understand and absorb whatever the hell I was looking at. I messaged my friend back. I asked, "What's this? Where and when did this happen?" She replied, "Was labeled a deepfake, no context in the description." The title was the same as the text at the end of the video. Watch it again, look carefully at the person who sets the cop on fire. I'm almost positive that's you. I said, "What the hell?" I hit play again, and yep, she's right. I was too distracted by the general mayhem to notice on my first few viewings, but the person throwing that Molotov, he looked exactly like me. They had my build, my face. You could even see my tattoo on the forearm. But here's the problem. See, I've never participated in a riot. I most certainly never burned anyone with a bottle of homemade napalm. I felt a deep unease stir in my gut as I rewatched those 5 seconds. The same footage over and over again, trying to make sense of how this could have happened. I messaged her. I said, This is really weird. Why would someone do this?" Neither of us could think of an adequate explanation. I filled out the contact form on the website, explained the situation. In the days that followed, I waited for a response. I kept watching the clip at half speed, picking it apart second by second. And upon closer scrutiny, I found a number of glitches and imperfections. For example, most of the protest signs were either completely blank or they were covered with indecipherable squiggles. I also noticed many of the background writers looked eerily similar to each other. There were maybe 5 or 6 variations of faces amongst the hundreds of people on the street. Some of them had impossibly long arms. There was even the occasional floating head with no discernible body beneath it. Even the raging fires were a bit odd-looking, but if you paid close enough attention. The video seemed to be a work in progress, as suggested by the text at the end of the video. But even so, it was still pretty convincing at a casual glance. The sheer pandemonium in the background helped cover up the mistakes. If I had seen this video while zoning out, some late-night scrolling or something, I probably wouldn't have questioned if it was real. I could only find 3 faces in total that were noticeably unique or different from the rest. They all belonged to rioters who were engaged in particularly violent or destructive activities. There was a Molotov thrower, the cop stabber, the pistol girl, a young woman who appeared to be firing a pistol at the police. These characters were all made to stand out with subtle manipulation of placement, shading, shadow. If the fake footage ever found its way onto a newscast, they would undoubtedly focus on this nefarious trio in the editing room. The video's creator had randomly stolen real faces for these key players, and one of them was mine. I wondered if I was maybe slipping into paranoid conspiracy nut theory, so I passed my observation along to my friend, asked for her input. She agreed with everything I said, and then she made an interesting point of her own. The video felt very much like a blank template. I mean, the settings were a generic city street, lined with generic buildings. It could have taken place in almost any city in North America. The empty protest signs could be filled with any slogans which seemed appropriate for any given narrative. The finished product would be a very convincing and very frightening look at civil unrest in action. She also pointed out that compared to the feral aggression of the mob, it seemed like the orderly and disciplined riot cops were meant to be the protagonists of the story. The video spun a powerful narrative of law and order versus agitator mayhem, and there I was, front and center, in all of this madness. And the more I thought about it, the more I was convinced that my likeness had been stolen for, a future propaganda piece. I asked her why someone would upload this thing before it was ready. My friend answered with a shrug emoji. She just said, found it mixed with a bunch of other deepfake videos. Might have been uploaded by accident. Even smart people make mistakes. At that point, several days had passed without a response from whoever was running the website. I decided to contact them again and discovered that the URL was broken. I tried to find it on Google, but it seemed the entire site, all of its content, they'd just been scrubbed from the internet. I tried to convince myself of the timing, that it was just a coincidence, but I wasn't so sure about that. The next morning, I crawled out of bed and I discovered that I'd been robbed. The burglar had picked the lock and crept into my apartment in the dead of night. Only 2 things were missing: my laptop and my phone. Having a stranger quietly ransack my apartment while I was sleeping was bad enough, but my phone had been sitting on the nightstand beside my bed, and that was much worse. The intruder was actually inside my bedroom while I was snoozing comfortably in bed. They had been standing right beside me in the dark. I had no idea what was happening. I reported the break-in to the police, but the cop who came to make the report was suspicious of my claims. He repeatedly asked if anything else had been stolen, pointed out that my wallet had been sitting on the side table, on that same desk as the missing laptop, completely untouched. I acknowledged that it seemed far-fetched, but I stuck to my guns. After he left, I drove over to my friend's house and made another disturbing discovery. She had also been robbed of all of her electronics. Nothing else had been stolen. She'd slept right through the entire incident without hearing a single peep. I asked if she'd contacted the police yet. She gave me a funny look. Slowly, she said, "I don't think that's a good idea. They wouldn't be able to help anyway. I think we should just drop it and leave it alone. Get a new phone. Forget about it." As she was talking, she grabbed a pen and an envelope from a stack of mail on her counter. She tapped the back of the envelope to get my attention. She wrote, "They could be listening." I read those 4 words and felt my entire body clench with anxiety. I suddenly felt very exposed and horribly vulnerable. I nodded silently and watched as she pushed the envelope into the paper shredder. I was conscious of how easy it would be for a powerful entity to make me disappear. If they could break into my apartment and take a phone from my bedside table, what would stop them from taking me? They'd already stolen my face. Why not take the rest while they were at it? After this bizarre string of events, I no longer felt safe at home. I deleted all of my social medias. But the damage was done. I had already given out my likeness, my data, literally hundreds of occasions. Likewise, I decided that moving to a new apartment wouldn't solve anything. They could find me, watch me wherever I tried to go. I mean, let's be honest here. No one's safe from the powers that be, not anywhere. You might feel like you're anonymous within the masses, but the school of fish defense doesn't work anymore. It's just a flimsy illusion in the age of technology. You're photographed, you're videotaped numerous times every day. Every time you venture out of your home, dozens of cameras, observing your every movement throughout the day. I mean, even inside your own home, it's possible for another party to watch you through the camera in your laptop. I mean, but never mind the cameras. They're the least of your worries as far as surveillance is concerned. Your cell phone is the worst offender. I mean, if it's on, it's always listening. It relentlessly tracks your journey through life from the cozy security of your own pocket. Even if you ditched the cell phone, you fled to a remote area to live as a hermit, you still wouldn't be safe. I mean, if they wanted to find you, there are a number of spy satellites, drones, things like that could do the job with dizzying efficiency. It'd only be a matter of time. If Test 13 Riot was ever broadcasted to the public, I'd be split into two different people. One would be innocent. The other would be a murderer. And the only people who would question it would be those who knew me personally. Everyone else would think I was a wild-eyed maniac. And I mean, why wouldn't they? Hell, they saw me commit a crime on video. I mean, didn't they? If the quality was convincing enough, even those who knew me would probably find themselves doubting my innocence. How can they deny something they could clearly see? I don't sleep very well these days. You see, I'm always on edge. I had to trust everyone I see in the news. The powers that be have a 1-2 combo that can't be countered. I mean, some people will readily accept their propaganda as truth. Others will fracture into nihilistic pockets of denialists who view all information as lies. When people can no longer believe what they see, they won't believe in anything at all. One group is easily controlled, the other is hopelessly fractured, and either way, those who seek to manufacture the future will soon wield all the power. We're entering the post-reality era of technological society. If you can still trust your own eyes, then you'll see. The future's bleak. Hey there kids, it's me, MrCreepyPasta, and I want to tell you thanks so much for watching tonight's video or listening to tonight's episode of the podcast. Before I tell you all good night, I just want to remind you that there is tea available. It hasn't been available for quite a while, but now my wife's tea shop, the Ivory Monocle Tea, has become available once again. If you guys have been missing out on tea, or if you've missed out over the holidays, over these crazy months for me and my family, well, now's your time to get more tea. Head over to etsy.com/shop/Ivory Monocle Tea, and you can get your hands on tea from my wife. It's perfect if you guys happen to be living through this winter storm. It's freezing outside, all the trees are frozen over with ice for me, so tea is wonderful this time of year. And hopefully it's wonderful for you once the allergies get started. And as always, I would love to give a big thank you to everyone who's supporting me over on Patreon. You guys are the real MVPs. You guys keep things going, especially while things have been nuts for me over the past couple of months, and things have been getting crazier and crazier as time goes on. You guys are the ones who are keeping me sane, and I mean that with all sincerity, that you guys have helped me immensely. So, in my personal life and my professional life, I want to give a very big thank you to Jordan Alexander Sanchez, Jakob Fenske, Burnett, Kraus, LaQueda, Canizales, MrCreepyPasta, PebisPleaser, Travis, Joseph Calarrudo, BuddhaBee, Dante, Kinkade, Foxhound 803, Mephistopheles, CursepoxPrimarch, Bastion, Beefcake, Cultist, Love You M&M, INSANITYGamerX, Jesus Cornejo, Yarghoul, MrCreepyPasta, kearns, himbojerry, CrusaderChocobo, Adamarius, Captain Scurvy, Escabine, Braden Morris, Nate Cull, Our Min Time, Angelus, Seclude, That Creepy Chick, Red Shadow Cat, Xavier and Cheyenne, 6 Gay Rats in a Trench Coat, Turtleman, Cryolinian, Lord Life's Best, Gorang Tron Magazine, Mr. Marcus Blitz, Ika Limchok, Dirk Diver 030, Matt Bach, Voice of Sand, Shelly J, Fikamel, Deleted Account, Melted Lake, Tully Sue, William King, Sashi Suzaku, Stricket, Freddy Krueger, Happy Birthday Jason Wilson, Lisa Cottrell, Caspian, Hades Nephew, Peter Chip, Acid System, Mog, Kiwi the Sloth, Fester's Lampshade, Nico Kaya, The Ginger Bros, Aaron Stormcrow, Daniel Paulson, and Corey Kenshin. To everyone on this list, everyone in the description, and of course anyone who could support even just $1, thank you all so much for making my life significantly easier with this. And if you guys would like to be able to join any of the names that you see here or down there or anything at all, head over to patreon.com/MrCreepyPasta. And with that, I wish you all a very, very pleasant night and sweet dreams.